Thanks for watching and paying attention. My name is Mrs. Sturgis, and for many years I have worked with the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation. So what city do we care about? Say it with me. Pittsburgh. That's right. In fact, we care about the entire Pittsburgh region, beyond the city of Pittsburgh, including Allegheny County, and to neighboring counties also. We also care about history, the story of Pittsburgh, and especially the story as told through its landmarks. Think about a landmark in your neighborhood. What makes it special? It is a place that is familiar and loved by you. We care about landmarks that are 50 years old or more, that were well designed and artfully constructed. The last word in our name, what is it? Foundation. Think about the foundation of a building. It supports the building, doesn't it? The foundation of our organization includes people, businesses, and other organizations that support and believe in our mission. Our mission is renewing communities and building pride. Let's talk about Pittsburgh, your hometown and mine. Has Pittsburgh always looked the way it does today? No. Cities grow and change just like people do. Do you think I've always looked like I look today? Absolutely not. Here's a photograph of me when I was 2.5 years young. All right? And here's a photograph of me when I was 18 years young. You can see that some of the features are the same, I hope. My eyes and my smile, for instance. But of course today my hair is darker brown, turning a bit gray. I have bumps on my forehead and a funny setback tooth and wrinkles, but I still am me. And it's those differences that really help make me one of a kind, unique. The differences are okay. It's all right. So how old am I now? Let's play a game to find out. In my game, one jump or tap equals 10 years. So count how many jumps old or taps old I am. Okay, let's go. 1, 6. So if I'm 6 jumps or taps old, and if one jump or tap equals 10 years, how old am I? Yes, 60 years young, I'll say. Now, how old are you? And my main audience here is really young people who are learning about Pittsburgh. Raise your hand if you're 9 years old. Raise your hand if you're 10 years old. Raise your hand if you're 11 years old. In my game, we're going to pretend that you're all 10 years old right now. One jump or tap equals 10 years. So if you're 10 years old, how many jumps or taps are you going to take? Let's do it together. 1. That's right. You can feel your age. You're 1 jump or tap. I'm 6 jumps or taps. So how many jumps old do you think Pittsburgh is? So here's a fact. Pittsburgh was named and founded in 1758. So subtract 1758 from the year it is now to find out exactly how old Pittsburgh is. If we round Pittsburgh's age to the nearest 10, Pittsburgh is 260 years old. How many jumps or taps is 260 if one jump equals 10 years? 26, that's right. Let's jump or tap 26 times to feel how long Pittsburgh has been around. Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Wow, that takes a bit of time and energy. You can feel how long it's been growing and changing. In each of these images, let's focus on Pittsburgh's appearance. What do you notice? What stands out? Pittsburgh was founded as a military outpost at the forks of the Ohio River. Whoever controlled this land controlled settlement to the west, since the Ohio River flowed west into the Mississippi. This drawing shows Pittsburgh in 1765, 7 years after the British took control of the point and named the place Pittsburgh. The point points west. It's like an outstretched hand welcoming you here. The Allegheny and Monongahela rivers meet at the point to form the Ohio. Our three rivers take their names from Native American words. Native Americans were the first to explore, hunt, and live in this region. This is Fort Pitt, completed by the British in 1761. It had 5 sides, like a pentagon, and 5 bastions, allowing soldiers to fire their muskets in several directions. One bastion has been rebuilt as the Fort Pitt Museum. Visit the museum sometime. Soldiers and officers lived in these buildings, and the large open area was the parade ground. A moat protected the eastern side of Fort Pitt. Vegetables were planted in the King's Garden, so the soldiers and officers had healthy food to eat. Fort Pitt withstood one siege by Native Americans in 1763. In 1764, this blockhouse was built to protect Fort Pitt, since the fort's earthen walls had been weakened by floods. The Fort Pitt blockhouse is the only building from Fort Pitt to survive. The frontier town of Pittsburgh grew beyond the walls of Fort Pitt. The British abandoned Fort Pitt in 1772, just before the American Revolutionary War. Eventually, almost all the fort was dismantled. In order for Pittsburgh to grow, a plan of streets and lots was needed. This image, Pittsburgh in 1795, shows the street plan laid out in 1784, 1 year after the American Revolutionary War ended. The Penn family owned much of the land in what is now downtown Pittsburgh. After all, Pittsburgh is located in the state of Pennsylvania, founded by William Penn. His grandsons sent surveyors to lay out a plan of streets and lots so people could buy land and build. Since the rivers were the easiest way to travel in the early days, Liberty and Penn Avenues were laid out parallel to the Allegheny River. These streets were laid out parallel to the Monongahela River. When the 2 street grids met along Liberty Avenue, triangular-shaped lots were created, which is why there are some triangular-shaped buildings today. Market Square, laid out in 1784, is still our public square. It was nicknamed the Diamond, and this corner of the diamond points north. The ponds have been filled in, and we don't see the islands anymore. The French Fort Duquesne and the British Fort Pitt no longer existed, but the person who drew this map wanted us to remember them. The streets in the 1784 plan actually extended to the tip of the point. There were lots of places to build. In 1816, Pittsburgh became a city. Mrs. Gibson from Philadelphia sketched Pittsburgh 1 year later in 1817. This view is based on her sketch. Mrs. Gibson and her husband were visiting this gateway to the west on their wedding tour. Pittsburgh filled the triangular slice of land. The tall spired building was the first courthouse. It was in Market Square. Notice the industrial smoke from a glassworks. Notice the flatboat and the keelboat. Do you see any bridges? No. The first bridge would be built the next year in 1818 across the Monongahela. During its lifetime, Pittsburgh has survived many floods and one major fire. After the Great Fire of April 10, 1845, the mayor of the city said, We will make of these blackened ruins a golden triangle. And that's what the people did. Here is Pittsburgh in 1859, 14 years after the Great Fire. In this view, we are looking down on Pittsburgh from Mount Washington. Mount Washington was first called Coal Hill because the hill included a rich seam of coal. It was renamed for George Washington, who explored this region for the British in the 1750s, fought in this region during the French and Indian War, and was with the British when Pittsburgh was named in 1758. John Roebling, a German immigrant, designed a wire rope suspension bridge across the Monongahela, since the first wooden bridge had burned in the Great Fire. Mr. Roebling became one of America's most famous civil engineers. Steamboats docked along the Monongahela Wharf, and by this time, the railroad had arrived in Pittsburgh too. Near the point, you can see a long, round-roofed building, a train station. The Duquesne Depot of the Pennsylvania Railroad also served as a festival hall for the Pittsburgh Centennial celebration 1 year earlier in 1858. In the midst of all these buildings near the point, the Fort Pitt Blockhouse survived. The most noticeable buildings in this view are the second Allegheny County Courthouse with its dome and several houses of worship. By now, Pittsburgh had annexed, that means taken over, areas to the east, including what is now the Strip District. Pittsburgh was gaining fame as the Iron City, and more people were coming here to live and work. When this view was published in 1890, Pittsburgh was famous for making steel. Steel was used to build railroads, bridges, and buildings. By now, Pittsburgh had annexed communities to the south across the Monongahela River. But the separate city of Allegheny still occupied the land to the north, across the Allegheny River. The tallest building in Allegheny City was the former Carnegie Library, now the Children's Museum of Pittsburgh's Museum Lab. The grandest building in Pittsburgh was the third Allegheny County Courthouse, completed in 1888. It survives to this day and is more than 13 jumps or taps old. Remember, 1 jump or tap equals 10 years. Duquesne University, recalling the name of the French fort, was built on the bluff. The university is still there. Another familiar landmark was the Ducane Incline. It opened in 1877 and is now more than 14 jumps or taps old. People continue to ride the incline up and down Mount Washington. In 1890, Pittsburgh was a busy, prosperous, world-famous industrial city. Every bit of the Golden Triangle was covered with buildings of all sorts. This is the first photograph of Pittsburgh in my group of images. It's from 1892, just 2 years after the color view you just saw. The third and current Smithfield Street Bridge crossed the Monongahela River. The third 6th Street Bridge was under construction over the Allegheny. It was easy to see the exposition building along the Allegheny in this view. It was a place where people would exhibit products and hold special events, like a convention center. However, the Allegheny County Courthouse and Duquesne University were hidden in smog. Smog in the air came from burning coal. For many years, people in the Pittsburgh region burned coal to heat their homes and cook their food. Coal was used to make iron and steel, and many industries were also powered by coal. Coal produced more energy than wood and was a plentiful, local, natural resource. Here, river barges are loaded with coal. This photograph shows Pittsburgh in 1940, when it was the workshop of the world. It must have been a clear day because you can see east to the University of Pittsburgh's Cathedral of Learning. 3 identical bridges crossed the Allegheny River. They were nicknamed the Three Sisters. By now, Pittsburgh had annexed Allegheny City. Every bit of land you see in this photograph was part of the city of Pittsburgh. More than 600,000 people lived in the city, twice the number of people who live in the city now. Buildings, warehouses, and railroad tracks reached almost to the tip of the point. There were 4 railroad stations downtown, and 3 skyscrapers dominated the skyline. A coke works, where coal is purified, and a steel works occupied riverfront land along the Monongahela. Pittsburgh was energetic, hardworking, and world famous. The city was about to begin working even harder to help win World War II. Here's Pittsburgh in 1994, about 50 years after World War II ended. Pittsburgh's appearance changed in major ways as a result of a renaissance or rebirth, and as a result of historic preservation, the business of saving and renewing important neighborhoods and buildings. The rivers and air are cleaner. Many more trees cover Mount Washington and neighboring hills. The Carnegie Science Center had opened along the Ohio River. Both the Pittsburgh Steelers and Pittsburgh Pirates played in the circular Three Rivers Stadium. You can still see the Cathedral of Learning at the University of Pittsburgh. The U.S. Steel Building, opened in 1971, was the city's tallest skyscraper at 841 feet. It was just over twice as tall as Mount Washington. Everything near the point had been demolished except for the Fort Pitt Blockhouse to make way for Point State Park with its fountain and Fort Pitt Museum. The Fort Pitt Bridge and Fort Duquesne Bridge connected to new expressways, and the historic Smithfield Street Bridge still connected downtown to the south side. My organization, the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation, had developed Station Square by this time, on the south shore of the Monongahela. Working with others, we saved and restored 5 old railroad buildings and added a hotel, parking garage, and brought the Gateway Clipper fleet over to the south shore of the river. Here's our last image, a photo of Pittsburgh in 2014. Pittsburgh is a place of great natural beauty, as well as a city of 90 neighborhoods, including downtown, connected by many bridges, tunnels, roads, and 2 inclines. The Pittsburgh Penguins have a new arena in the Lower Hill. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds play soccer at the Highmark Stadium at Station Square. The Pittsburgh Pirates play at PNC Park, and the Pittsburgh Steelers play in Heinz Field, which looks out to the point where the outlines of Fort Duquesne and Fort Pitt are marked in stone. The identical 3 sister bridges have been renamed to honor Pittsburgh pirate Roberto Clemente, Pittsburgh-born artist Andy Warhol, and Rachel Carson, who grew up near Pittsburgh and helped launch the environmental movement through her scientific research and writing. The David L. Lawrence Convention Center is named for Pittsburgh's mayor during the Renaissance. It is next to the Cultural District, which includes theaters, art galleries, restaurants, and shops, all located in historic buildings for the most part. UPMC, a healthcare provider and the largest employer in the region, is headquartered in the U.S. Steel Building. Several other new skyscrapers rise above the more historic buildings. Remember that it's the variety, the diversity of buildings, short and tall, old and new, that makes our city unique and memorable. If every building in Pittsburgh looked the same, you wouldn't know where you were. Just like if every person in the world looked like me, you wouldn't know who was who. It's the differences that make us stand out, that make us unique and memorable. Celebrate the differences in Pittsburgh and in yourself. As our city continues to grow and change, please help take care of the rivers, the land, the hills, and the buildings, bridges, and other built things that make Pittsburgh different from other cities, distinctive, unique, and memorable. Please keep learning about your city. Ask people in your family to tell you about their favorite places in our city. Or draw a picture or build a model of your favorite Pittsburgh building or bridge. Students from Pittsburgh Beechwood created this model of the Smithfield Street Bridge. They also created these models of houses in Pittsburgh's Allegheny West neighborhood on the north side. A friend of mine built these models out of Connects. They show some of the bridge types in Pittsburgh: a through truss bridge, a tied arch bridge, and a suspension bridge that converts to a self-anchored suspension bridge. Pretty ingenious. The more you know about your city, the more you care about your city, and the more you feel that you belong. Feeling that you belong someplace is important. You do belong here. We need each one of you in Pittsburgh. You are the next generation of people who will be taking care of and improving Pittsburgh. I can't wait to see what you accomplish. Thanks for watching.